Welcome to Current Situation, your Palmetto State political pulse. I'm your host, Joshua Gale, alongside South Carolina State House Representative Jordan Pace. Every episode, our goal is to help you navigate the complex world of politics through a biblically conservative perspective. Jordan, good afternoon. How are you?
Hey, good afternoon. I'm doing well.
Good. So we're coming to you guys, this is the end of season 1 of the Current Situation podcast. We're going to recap some things. We're going to recap some of the Republican primaries that happened across the state. And we're going to go ahead and kind of tell you what you can expect from the Current Situation podcast towards the end of this episode. But this is our efforts to wrap things up and really, sign off season 1 share what we think the future looks like for the Current Situation podcast and conservative Christians. So, Jordan, can you kind of tell us what has gone on across the state in these Republican primary political races and what we can expect coming up in some of these runoffs, and what is a runoff?
Sure. So yeah, the primaries happened this Tuesday last week. The whole House and Senate, the whole Senate was up. So we're in South Carolina has these election cycles that go in like a 12-year circle. So every 12th year, which is this year, there's no statewide election for anything. So there's no statewide election for governor, U.S. senator, either one of them. So turnout for this 12th year has always historically been bad. This year was pretty bad. The upstate had a lot more than down here. I think Berkeley County's turnout rate was like 8%.
Wow.
It's, really, really low. Historically, on non-12th years, it's anywhere from like 12 to 15% turnout-wise. So markedly low turnout across the board. But we had a tremendous amount of money was spent on this election. Mostly on one side rather than the other, but there were a lot of competitive races, a few surprises. So I think geographically we can start up in the upstate and kind of work our way down.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest surprises, sort of to some people tonight, was up at the very tip top of South Carolina in Oconee County. There were Oconee and Pickens and Anderson counties. 3 incumbents were defeated, and I think between those 3 incumbents, just the incumbents themselves spent almost $500,000 between the 3 of them trying to defend their seats. One guy is the chairman of the LCI committee. It's a Labor, Commerce, and Industry. He's been in office since like the 90s. Very powerful, a lot of money. I think he had like $200,000 in his campaign account. Extremely close with lobbyists and moneyed interests because his committee regulates most of the big industries. So access to a ton of third-party lobbyist money. Really came out to defend him. He didn't knock on doors. And so he was defeated by a high school wrestling coach who raised like $12,000 and had a great team of like several dozen volunteers. And they just literally knocked on, I think, every door in the county.
Wow.
Great ground game, and it's got him Adam Duncan. Seems to be an awesome guy. I talked with him the day after the election. So that was a big surprise that Bill Sandifer was that incumbent. So he got knocked out. I think it was
literally by a wrestling coach.
Yeah, by a wrestling coach. 60 vote margin. So it's kind of a trope that, every vote counts. In a presidential election, senatorial election, every vote counts probably less than you maybe think it does. But in these elections like this, where it comes down to 60 votes, and one we'll talk about later, to 43 votes, every vote really does count. So he was defeated. Just next door to him, another long-term incumbent, guy named Jerry Carter, nice enough guy from Clemson. This is the Clemson University's area. He was defeated by a guy named Philip Bowers. That was kind of the under-the-radar race of all of them. And then the other big monumental shift in Anderson County, the assistant majority leader and vice chairman of the LCI. So both the chairman and the vice chairman of LCI was defeated by a guy named Lee Gilreath. Not to get too deep in the weeds, but Jay West was the incumbent. I was told a story by somebody who lives up there in Anderson County that there was kind of a confrontation a few months ago where Lee Gilreath told Mr. West that he didn't like the way he was acting in Columbia. And Mr. West's response was, well, if you don't like it, maybe you should just run against me. So Mr. Gilreath decided to do that and wound up beating him. I think it was a 28-point spread. Like he beat him 2-1, essentially.
Wow.
Yeah. Despite getting outspent by $100,000.
Wow.
Because Jay had a lot of connections to that lobbying class. So that was good. It was a interesting shift up there in the upstate. All 11 of the Freedom Caucus incumbents held on to their seats. The millions, I'm not exaggerating this at all, millions and millions of dollars was spent, mostly by third-party entities, the Pamela Truth Project and some other LLCs that were run by Walter Wetzel, the campaign consultant for the House Republican Caucus.
Mm-hmm.
So millions of dollars were spent there to no effect. It even got, they were bold enough that all the challengers to the Freedom Caucus incumbents, the challengers were given $4,500 each by the House Republican Caucus. Yeah. I didn't even get that much when I was running against a Democrat and beat the Democrat a couple of years ago.
Right.
So despite all of that money and all the mail, like dozens of pieces of mail, billboards, they went on TV and radio, all the Freedom Caucus members held their seats, most of them held by double digits. Just absolute thrashing, and really a repudiation of the establishment's attempt to villainize the principled conservatives in Columbia.
Let's take a second here. I want to call this out. The Freedom Caucus. Let's speak about this for just a moment. Sure. I know we've briefly talked about it before. I want to bring it back up again. Why you decided to join the Freedom Caucus, what the Freedom Caucus stands for, not just what I think it is, but also at the same time, I'm one of the newspapers down here. It's ran by mostly children. It's called the Post and Courier.
Yeah.
And posted an article against the Freedom Caucus.
Several
that
anti-endorsed us.
Yeah. When a liberal newspaper attacks a political party in a Republican primary, let me say that again, in a Republican primary, and anti-endorses one to endorse another, that should show you something. So tell us real quick what the Freedom Caucus stands for,
sure.
And versus somebody else that would call themselves a part of the Republican Caucus, the Republican Party, or who consider themselves a conservative.
Mm-hmm. So the Freedom Caucus, we're all still Republicans. We're elected Republicans. It was started in 2022 specifically because we believe that Republicans and conservatives should vote the way that they campaign. If you campaign on X amount of policy issues, X, Y, and Z, you should vote to support those policy issues. And historically, over the last several decades in South Carolina, it doesn't seem like that's been the case. So whether it's gas taxes or cultural issues or the lack of school choice or any of the above. If boil it down, I would say we're about liberty, tradition, and reform. So my 10-second elevator speech on the Freedom Caucus is liberty, both individual and individual, family, business. Like we're about the founding principles of the Republic and of South Carolina. Tradition, cultural tradition, biblical tradition. That's how we gain the objective right and wrong is from tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And then reform, our government institutions have, much like the federal government, had grown way too big. They don't work very well, and we need to fix them. So those are our kind of big
Yeah.
three
With the
ideas.
2 years of voting history to back it up.
Yeah.
Politicians have given us, and I don't consider you a politician, I consider you a statesman, and a man who fears God. Um, and, but you're smart and you're great on your feet and and you study. But the 2 years of voting history to show, hey, we don't just talk about these things like the
Yep.
hot topic issues that you get in a postcard so that we can just get your vote and
Mhm.
continue to do the work of the lobbyist and continue to do the work of our friends and things like that have other people's interest rather than the interest of the people. That's 2 years of voting history, which
Yeah.
I don't think enough people have had the time to look into just yet, to look at the voting history of their candidate and as far as people across the party. And then they put all the spin on it. Well, we have to learn to work with the other side of the aisle, and we have to do all this. You can still do that. I see the Freedom Caucus doing that well,
Yeah.
but it's
They're not mutually exclusive. Like I've tried to make it a goal to work with anybody that's willing to work with me on a particular issue, as long as that issue is the right issue. So if a Democrat wants to vote the right way objectively on Second Amendment or life or whatever, that's great. I welcome them to it. I'll sing their praises. Same thing with anybody in the Republican caucus. I think the majority of the people in the Republican caucus believe the right thing. They get pressured by special interest or leadership or whatever, and that's where things kind of go awry. And we're trying to set an example of you can defy that pressure, and if you defy the pressure and the threats, like we were threatened, we were pressured. They spent millions of dollars calling some of our members anti-Semites and racist and all kinds of stuff. Just horrible, mudslinging. With not only can you survive it, you can beat them. And we showed that example. It wasn't like a resounding slam dunk all over the state. I mean, I think it's a pretty slam dunk that we defended ourselves and we probably gained several seats. Not every challenger was successful. We'll move kind of down the state. Around the Columbia area, there was a Senate race. Katrina Shealy was one of the 3 Republican women that voted against the heartbeat bill.
Mm-hmm.
Not only voted against it, but like filibustered it and got a Kennedy Award from the leftist kind of structure in D.C. Was honored for their fight to maintain the slaughter of children. She is going to a runoff against a guy named Carlisle, something Carlisle. So the majority of her district didn't want her. There were 3 people in that race, and when there's 3 people in a race, if nobody gets 50% plus 1, then it goes to a runoff. So those runoffs will be this Tuesday. Also, there was an open seat in Spartanburg. There's an open Senate seat and an open House seat because that House member was running for Senate. So there's a runoff for both of those. Sarita Edgerton in that House seat, she was on our program last month.
Mm-hmm.
So there were 3 people in that race. She got the most votes, but her versus the second place finisher, they'll be going against each other next Tuesday. So any of our friends in Spartanburg County, and please go vote for Sarita and support her. The other race up there that's going to run off is a Senate race. Former occupant of that Senate seat for 2 terms, a guy named Lee Bright, who's a good friend of mine, versus the previous holder of the House seat that Sarita's running for, a guy named Roger Nutt. Roger Nutt's a nice enough guy, not one to stick his neck out, and I don't know that I actually ever heard him speak on the floor in the 2 years that I've been up there, other than like wishing people happy birthday. But those 2 guys, Lee versus Nutt, are running each other for that Senate seat. Further down, going back to the Senate races, an absolute walloping of an incumbent. So this kind of defies all the rules where incumbents tend to have the advantage. One of those other Republican senators that voted against the heartbeat bill and filibustered, a lady named Penry Gustafson, which is not an easy name to say or remember, got absolutely trounced. I mean, like 80-20 by local county councilman from Kershaw or York, somewhere in that area. Got him Alan Blackman, who's basically came, and that was the kind of the crux of the campaign is, she was bad at this, amongst other stuff. So she got trounced. And then down here in our area, Matt Lieber beat Sandy Sin. Sandy Sin is probably the ringleader of that crew by 43 votes. And it was very, very tight. Wasn't really even assured that he won until several days later. And I think Matt got outspent 2 or 3 to 1, maybe more than that. So another big repudiation, I think, on a statewide level of South Carolina is pro-life. We want to protect children, and we're heading in a good direction. Still more work to do, but at least on the Senate side, things are looking better.
Yeah. The Post and Courier and a lot of others would call them the sister senators, but there's quite a few other names for those three. Mm-hmm. But when a liberal newspaper is mourning your defeat, you're not a conservative, even if you think you are. You're a moderate and probably a Democrat in a rhino, Republican in name only costume.
Right.
So, guys, but you'll get the mailers that say the opposite, that tell you what your So if your belly is your appetite and your appetite wants to see X, Y, and Z, those mailers are targeted. They know what is going to feed your appetite.
Yeah.
That is not the person, that is what the mailer promises. A piece of paper doesn't, freedom of speech and things like that. A piece of paper doesn't promise anything.
And I'll give you an example of that. There's a Senate runoff in Greenville County between a guy named Jason Elliott and Ben Carper. And Jason's a former House member, nice enough guy on a personal level, doesn't vote super conservative. He, on one of his mail pieces, said something like defended women's sports. Well, the reality is the first time the Save Women's Sports bill came through, there was a long list of Republicans that didn't support it, and I'm on the committee level.
Right.
Unfortunately, one of those guys made it back in the House down this way. This is something we should probably talk about too. Like, how do you beat an incumbent? Incumbents typically have a big advantage unless there's some big story about them, whether it's the abortion stuff with those 3 Republican female senators, or some kind of scandal. Like, a lot of times it's difficult. Well, we can look at who,
but sometimes scandal doesn't help you in the case of Adam Morgan and what was he was trying to take out scandal ridden.
So Adam Morgan, the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, he ran an extremely strong, gallant effort against William Timmons, who's the incumbent congressman in Greenville-Spartanburg. Timmons very infamously cheated on his wife with her best friend. The guy's worth a lot of money. I mean, like hundreds of millions of dollars. The Timmons family is, old, big money in the upstate. So Trump came in and endorsed Timmons,
which is a pay for play.
Money had something to do with that. Mm-hmm. Governor McMaster came and campaigned for Timmons, though he also campaigned for Jay West, and that didn't help Jay West any. Timmons outspent Adam 5 to 1 easily. I mean, he was on TV for weeks. Mm-hmm. And it came down to about 3,000 votes. So Adam went up losing that race by about 3,000 votes. He actually won the majority of the votes in Greenville County and Spartanburg County is what cost him. That kind of cost him the race.
Come on, Spartanburg.
Yeah, it made me sad. That's where I'm from. So a lot of work to do up there, but money is an issue. I mean, that's the reality is money plays a big part in politics. It can't just be money because those guys who got defeated in Anderson, Pickens, and Oconee spent a lot more money than their opponents did. But there kind of is a minimum threshold where you need to raise, I don't know, somewhere between probably $15,000 and $30,000 just to get your message out beyond knocking doors. Like you got to do a little bit of mail, a little bit of texting, have some events, And all of that costs money. But you can't just rely on the money. You got to go knock on doors and meet people. There's a synergy between those two things. And honestly, it helps to be on the right side of objective morality, whether you're either incumbent or a challenger, not being afraid to point out, like, this is the right thing. Either I did the right thing or I'm going to do the right thing because it's the right thing no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Paint in bold colors is what I tell folks, because whether you agree with somebody or not, if they're trying to hide what they believe, you're not going to respect them, even if you agree with them.
Mm-hmm.
So paint in bold colors. Don't shy away from difficult subjects. Talk about it. Don't make stuff up. Tell the truth.
Right.
And people will appreciate it. But yeah, that's something a lot of folks along the coast struggle to raise money. Start early, build relationships, dig your wells before you need your water. Some of the better advice I've ever gotten about whether it's fundraising or sales or just doing business in general. If you build your foundation, that's a biblical concept. Build your house on the rock, not on sand, and count the cost before you start building. Then you're going to be a whole lot better off.
Absolutely.
And what this is pointing to as we kind of wrap up, 2026 is going to be, I think, a watershed year for South Carolina politically. So the 12th year of the 12-year cycle, there's no statewide elections, very low turnout. We're going into year one of that 12-year cycle where Senator Lindsey Graham will be up for re-election. All the statewide officers, so governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, treasurer, comptroller, all those will all be up for re-election. So Henry McMaster's term limited, so he can't run again. Very high speculation that Alan Wilson, the current attorney general, will run for governor. The current lieutenant governor might run for governor. Curtis Loftus, the treasurer, might not run again. He's kind of made mention of that. The comptroller general right now is not even an elected person. He's an appointee by the governor because last comptroller general resigned in disgrace for mishandling billions of dollars in money. So he's actually a Democrat. The guy's in there now.
Wow.
Yeah. So all of that plus the whole house would be up again.
And this is 2026.
This is 2026. So could be an absolute watershed moment, especially if some people who've talked about getting into some of those races actually get into it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got a lot to look forward to in the next year.
Right.
Kind of building up to that.
Well, that's where, this is the time we begin praying about these things.
Yeah.
We've constantly, as a state, we used to be the state of firsts, the colony, the state of firsts, to do some incredible things, to set the standard for this nation. We have yet to step back into that position.
No, we're last. We passed Help Not Harm last. We passed constitutional carry last. Even the bills protecting kids from online pornography, we're the last Republican states to pass that. We're playing catch up.
We're playing catch up. We need some people that begin praying now. It doesn't begin when the campaigning starts and things like that. It begins now, and we need to identify who those people are that have strong conservative Christian values, that don't err to compromise and aren't already in bed with lobbyists and big corporations, things like that. We can do that, but we need to begin to seek the Lord to heal if we want him to heal our nation, it starts with our state.
Yep.
And so we have a major responsibility for that. So that now is the time to begin to pray, to intercede, to fast, to seek God's will and his direction for our state, and to raise up some good leaders. I'm not the only person that ever thinks governor, president, anything. Is this the best we have?
Right.
I cannot be the only person who's ever thought that. This is the best we've got.
All the polls are indicating the majority of the people in the country are having those same thoughts.
Yeah. So, but that responsibility lies on us.
Yep.
This is still a democracy, and this is still in the hands of the people until we continue to give over and give away more and more and more of our freedoms and our liberties. And we continue not to speak up and want to be politically correct and all sorts of different things. We're just continuing to surrender. But now is the time we seek God in this and find the people that are just and that have the fear of the Lord and what the Lord wants for South Carolina and the nation.
And liberty is inherently tied to responsibility. So if we want to be free, we have to be responsible. And that's true, like fiscally on a personal level. Like if you want to be free on a financial level, you have to budget. If you want to be free politically, you have to take political responsibility. And for some people, that might be running for office. For most people, that's helping and supporting good people that decide to run for office, whether that's financially or with their time and support your votes. Like we've traded away a lot of our liberty. I think a lot of because people don't want to be responsible for the outcome, but they're inherently tied together. So if we want to be free, we got to be responsible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So whatever it is, Jordan and I have said this over and over and over again. We got a Reformed Baptist in Jordan, and we've got more of a charismatic Christian with me. The church, the capital C church, I don't care what denomination you are, things like that. Speak to your leadership, speak to your diocese, speak to your local or your statewide convention. Start to make noise that if we do not unite ourselves as Christians, we'll be yesterday's news, and we'll continue to have less liberties as Christians as well. And you'd be a fool to think that your liberties as a Christian are not under attack by those who think represent you well, and by those who are actually on the attack of what you stand for. I love the two NBA coaches, especially the one that won the NBA championship. The reporter asked him, how does it feel to have two black men, coaching against each other? He said, what about two Christian men?
Right.
They didn't know what to say to that. They didn't know what to say to it. It's the most admirable thing. Guys, give it to people. Stand up what you stand up for. What's the worst that could happen when you stand up for what you know that God cares about? So with this episode concludes season 1. Jordan, you and I have been on here for 23, almost 20, 23 or 24 episodes. Trying to just educate some folks who don't have the capacity to lean into what's going on politically. It's been a lot of sacrifice on our part, but it's been eye-opening for me, and I know it's been for many people who've reached out to me to thank me for the information that we're sharing. You can expect us after the November elections to jump back on here for season 2. There's a lot of work to be done in the State House and the Senate, and there's a lot to be covered. Some things we explained in season 1.
The reason why we're taking a little break, the legislature doesn't meet from
correct
summer till December. Like we'll go back in January, basically, for the next session.
Yeah. But we'll be hard at work. Melissa and I signed a recording contract with our country band Gale Bird. If you want to go stream Gale Bird on any of your favorite streaming platforms, it is always entertaining and safe for the entire family. But some great country music. So we've got 6 more songs to write in our recording contracts. We'll be working hard with that. And reaching some people that would never be in church, and presenting them with the only hope that we have, which is Jesus. We just appreciate everybody who's listened in on season 1. This content is green forever. It's good. It's good stuff to understand. Please share it. Make sure that you're looking forward to seeing what's happening after our November elections that happen nationally. Obviously, there are some Republican versus Democrat races that'll show up on your ballot in November, and several places around the state. Some of those are in some areas that may need a little of attention, but some are is a stretch. So continue to pay attention to that. Reach out to us with any questions you may have. And again, we thank you for your viewership, and we look forward to sharing more with you this coming fall.